This video has sensitive and confidential information. Lori is sharing her story so that she can help mothers and fathers everywhere who have had to face some serious disappointments and some shattering choices that their children have made. She's going to talk to you about how she navigated through some very difficult times. For anybody that became a mother or a father, we could hardly dream when they were sweet little innocent babies that one day they could have some serious problems. It may seem that everyone else is boasting their children's accomplishments and successes on social media. Meanwhile, these parents are suffering in silence.
So one of the things that I learned about this year, with 3 people in my family having cancer, 2 are terminal, is that I really need to shift my focus more on the important relationships in my life. I don't have a lot of friends, but I have very close friends. So when I went through what I went through with my son, people kind of showed their true colors.
Yeah.
And the people who stuck beside me are really the relationships that I value. And the rest of them, I literally just said, don't need you, sorry. And that included family members that I've had to cut out of my life, which was really hard, but it was necessary.
Yep.
Necessary for my mental health. For my home, we have a lot of clutter. So when I look at it as junk. They don't look at it as junk, right? So now the rubber met the road when my son's been sleeping in my dining room for the last year because I don't have a bedroom for him. So we're like, but we have a huge basement downstairs. It's full of junk. But that motivated my husband enough that he's taken 2 trailer loads of stuff that he's let go. And that's huge for him.
Oh, good for him. That is hard.
Yes. And so I was like, and then Sam said to him, oh, Dad, I never thought you'd get rid of your stuff. He said, my son's more important than the stuff sitting in that basement.
Beautiful.
Right? But he said, Marky also has to be invested in it. So if I'm going downstairs to work, he's coming downstairs because we just want to frame out a room for him right now. Just everybody needs a space. Sometimes you just need to be alone, and he doesn't have that right now. So I said, it's time. We know he's going to be with us long term, on the right track. He does have his court case coming up on Tuesday because of what he did last year. Before he came back to us, and now, he's drug-free, alcohol-free. He's back at work. We're going to Greece and Rome together in April. Yeah, so he surprised me with this trip. We were supposed to go to Montreal. He was going to go by himself, and I'm like, no, I don't want him. I don't feel comfortable with him going on vacation by himself. I said, so, I'll go with you. Yep, okay. So I said, yeah, no problem. I can book the time off. We'll go. Montreal's beautiful. We'll go to Old Quebec. And then he come home from work one day and he said, oh, I upgraded our vacation. And I was like, you did? And he said, yeah, we're actually going to Greece and Rome for 11 days. And I'm like, what?
Amazing.
He's like, you have done so much for me. Not to say that Dad hasn't done, but you have done so much for me. You've always been there. No matter how many times I screw up, you're there. You're always there. You've always been the one constant in my life that I know I could count on. Again, he said, not saying that Dad, but you're always the one that I felt comfortable reaching out to. So I was like, thank you, but this is your last kick at the can. I said, because I can't go through this anymore. So really set those expectations. But I'm very, very proud of where he's come. I'm very proud of where he's at.
Yeah.
He's going to counseling. Again, he's still waiting for a psychiatrist. Counseling is good for him. It allows him to express his feelings. It allows him to be transparent to somebody who doesn't even know him. So that has been, I'm pretty proud of him. And I told him that at Christmas time. I said, I'm very proud of what you've accomplished. And next he's going to quit smoking and he's going to quit vaping because he said, you know what? Both of those really, I don't really have any room in my life for that anymore.
Oh boy.
Right? Because so he has a very addictive personality, which is why he's gotten himself into the trouble that he has gotten himself into. Sam is different. Sam would be leading the pack. Mark is part of the pack that's following. So, he vaping and smoking. He's addicted to energy drinks. I said, that's the next thing to go. I said, because, if you have anxiety and you drink energy drinks, what happens to your anxiety? It only intensifies because you're just downing, buckets of caffeine, which is no good for you anyway. So he's got some pretty big goals on his plate for this year. We don't smoke, we don't vape. So he's in an environment where if he decides to give those up, he wouldn't be around it. And he games with his friends online, but I said, you don't need any friends, Mark. It's because every person who's called yourself their friend has wound up hurting you really badly. So you don't need any friends. And that's the way I look at it in my own life as well, right? Like I have probably 3 really near and dear to my heart friends. That's it. That's all I have room for. Like honestly.
So what is it about 3? What are the qualities in those 3 people that make you feel that trust and closeness?
They never judged me or my son. They were always there for me. So I could pick up the phone at 2:00 in the morning and having a meltdown. They would literally jump in their car and come over and just like hold me while I cried. I mean, that first, especially when my son went to jail, that was awful for me. And I kept saying to Marky, you're the one that's in jail, but we're all doing the time. Everything in my life revolves you around being in jail. And through God's grace, the thing that is keeping him out is like, I am never going to do anything to ever put me back where I was in that hole. Right? So what he's being charged with in Moncton is there's no way that he can go back to jail. It's a DUI charge, basically. But if they would have given the help that he needed in the first place, this never would have happened. So that's kind of what our defense is going to be. Because we have the evidence.
Can you explain that more?
Yeah, so when he tried to kill himself the second time, he was in Moncton. He was with a group of people that he didn't know. And one of the people that he was with found out why he went to jail and literally took a bat and said, you've got 2 seconds to get out of my house or I'm going to smash your head in. Got behind the wheel of his car, took off, and wound up T-boning a woman about a block away from the Moncton Hospital. Wasn't wearing a seatbelt, put himself through the front windshield of the car. How he came out with literally just a cut behind his ear. That's the only injury that he had. And we didn't find out. This happened at like 7:00 in the morning, and the Moncton Hospital called us at 11:00 that night and said, your son's here. And, I became very concerned when I found out he went up to the RCMP and he's like, shoot me. Just shoot me. Put me out of my misery. I don't want to live anymore. So again, first time he tries to jump off the Reverse and Falls Bridge, they give him an Adderall and send him home. Right? No follow-up, no psychological evaluation, which, I work for the hospital and I have people asking me, do you want to be an ambassador? And I'm like, no, I don't want to be an ambassador because my son does not get the help that he needs. And it's not just my son, right? How many people have launched themselves off that bridge? And it just seems like we just become accustomed to, so there's a jumper on the bridge again. I'm like, that's a real human life. I get upset when they called that restaurant The Plank. I'm like, how inconsiderate is that title of that restaurant? And I follow Operation White Heart. It's great. I love Gary Brown. I think he's bringing huge awareness to, and let's all drive across the bridge and beep our horns. And I'm like, that's great, but what are we doing to fix mental health? Driving my car across the bridge, honking my horns, I'm not going to get my son the help that he needs. At the end of the day. But I do have a tremendous amount of respect because what he's doing is he's training people in mental health first aid. So his philosophy is if the system's broken, we can't have the system, we will become the system. Which I have a incredible amount of respect for him. But yeah, so he and Marky just recently shared with me that he had a vision of his grandmother who has been dead for 35 years. And he said, I see her as clear as day, Mom. And she said, it's not your time yet, sweetheart. Right? And that really touched me. I was like, I believe that. My husband doesn't believe it, but my husband believed it. Like, he doesn't like, it's not that he doesn't believe, that stuff kind of freaks him out a little bit. So anyway, and they still didn't keep him, Robin. He was evaluated by a psychiatrist. Yes, he needs care. We're not keeping him. So we put him in the car, and I said, I take it this means you're coming home. And he said, I don't know if I deserve to be able to come back home. And I said, well, your behavior was appalling. I said, to be honest, but you're our son. We love you. Some rules are no drugs, no alcohol, no hanging around with the people that you were hanging around with. If you break any of those, I will put you out of the house and not let you back in. I had to make that line in the sand for him. That had to become something that he has real consequences now. I mean, he doesn't have a car, so I control everywhere he goes, because if I don't drive him, he doesn't go. So he's become content with doing little things, reading a book, listening to a podcast, taking his dog for a walk, stuff that really, I guess, brought him back to basics. So now he had, before this happened, he had such rage issues, just fly off the handle about little things. But I think a lot of that had to do with the relationship that he was in. That just made him angry all the time. So those rage issues have gone away. So if, we're asking him, oh, hey, Mark, can you, do some, oh, yeah, no problem at all. No problem. Do you need any more money this month from me from board? Because I know you're going to have a higher heating bill. Like, just things that are thoughtful. So I firmly believe that I'm put on this earth to help people, even if other people deem them not to be helpable. That, judgment aside, looking back, would I have done anything different? No, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have. I remember looking at my husband and saying, I hope you realize it. So I'm a big believer in karma. So when you do bad things to people, it'll come back to get you. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the next day. So I'm a huge fan of Paramore, the band Paramore, and they sing a song called You First. And the most amazing, I went to see them in Toronto this summer. I took Sam and her best friend, and it was one of the best concerts I've ever been to.
Oh.
And the line in the song, it says, karma's gonna come for all of us, and I really hope she comes for you first. And I don't hold a grudge in my heart. I don't. I'm like, you know what? That does me more harm than it does her. I just let it go. Right?
And
I think that
I sort of hear when you talk about karma that it's not about you.
No.
You trust the universe will handle that.
Exactly.
That's nothing to do with you.
Exactly. And that's one of the big things that I took when I used to do the 21-day meditation workshops. I really took that from Deepak Chopra. He's like, that serves you no purpose in life. The universe will take care of it for you. You may not be there to see it, but just know. And every time something happens, I just look at my husband and I'm like, karma. He's like, yeah. Because there was actually a TV show, I don't know if you've ever watched it, called My Name is Earl.
Oh, yes.
So,
karma,
yeah, right?
I just would like to know, if you were going to speak to a mother out there that saw their child failing and suffering and going down the wrong path.
Right.
What would you tell them? Because I spoke to you when you were very conflicted.
Yes.
There were some poor choices and that conflict of, I want to love him through this, but I can't just tell him this is okay. So yeah, bring us to someone at that point where they're so conflicted that their child has made some very poor choices and they're devastated to watch this. And what would you tell them to help them get through this very tragic situation?
But the first thing that I would tell them is that they should never stop being an advocate for their child. At the end of the day, they're your family. However, there has to be a line in the sand. So there has to be an expectation that's set with the child. Like I did it, Robin. I kicked my son out of my house. That's what fueled the March incident. I said, this obviously is not working. You are doing drugs. You're having questionable people come into our home. This isn't working. And so that kind of what led. And he left my house for a month. But I hadn't talked to him in 30 days until we got that phone call from Moncton. So number one is never stop advocating for your child. But number two, making sure that they are getting, that they want to help themselves. Because you can't help somebody if they don't want to be helped. Right. And at the end of the day, you know, many nights crying myself to sleep, not knowing where my son was. At the end of the day, I had to kind of be okay with that. Because I sat back and I said, I did everything in my power to set him up for success. I can't make him, like, he could have chosen a totally different path in March and could have went back to the lifestyle that he was leading. And if that happened, I would have cut all ties with him. Because sometimes you do have to make the hard choices. One of the things that I really wish that there was in society was, how do you prepare for a mother whose kid is going to jail? I had no information. I hadn't talked to my child in 3 days. Nobody told me he needed money to make phone calls. Nobody told me I wasn't allowed to send him anything. So I think that that is a huge issue. Even if you had somebody had a pamphlet at the courthouse that said, hey, here's what to expect in the first 3 days after your child's been incarcerated. So, and then the way I was treated at the jail, I was treated probably just as bad as the prisoners were. They were very rude, very abrupt. There was only a couple that were ever really somewhat sort of nice. And that to me was problematic. So here I am upset having to see not being able to hug my child because he's behind glass. And then my sister-in-law trying to empathize because her son actually did something, but he got to do his time on the weekends. And she's like, oh, I totally know what you're going through. No, you don't. Because I haven't hugged my son in 8 months. You got to see your son on Monday. Right? And Aaron and I would talk and have these conversations. And I said, Aaron, I don't know what you're going through and you don't know what I'm going through. We have 2 completely different relationships with this man. Right? You're his wife and I'm his mother. And I'm not going to say one relationship is more important than the other. I've never said that. I said, but let me tell you, I will never stop advocating for him until the day I die. As long as he meets me halfway. So that's what I would say to a mother who's really in that. And you saw me, you saw what it was like. It was ugly. It was uncomfortable. It was messy. But it was necessary. So that I could walk away and say, you know what? If for some reason I do ever have to cut that tie with him, I can say I have done everything in my possible power to set him up for success. He was the one that decided to take the other road. I was just very lucky that Mark has chosen a path that's going to get him some good results in life. And now he's dealing with the aftermath of what people think about him, you know? And I said, people don't understand that, Mark. Like, people will only believe what they read. They just see that title and he's branded for life. So the day he got arrested, my husband works at a school. My husband had to go to the headmaster. And believe it or not, got more compassion from the headmaster of that school than he did from some of his own brothers and sisters. That's what really irritated me. Like at the end of the day, and that's why, you know, when I said some of those family members I've cut out of my life, those were the people who are not there. You know, just pick up the phone, see if he's okay. Nope, there's only 2 out of 10 that gave a crap. So for new mothers, it's hard. And I firmly believe that nothing can really prepare you for it. You have to go through it. It's messy and it's uncomfortable, and you're gonna want to feel like ripping your friggin' hair out, and you're gonna cry until you have no more tears left. But the good news is you're gonna come out the other side a much stronger person. and hopefully have a much stronger, I have such a strong bond with Mark now. It's incredible to see how that relationship has changed. Always had a bond with him, but now it's like, it's him and I were like connected.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
He's made some very poor choices,
Oh, absolutely.
and you're very close to him now, and it sounds like he's turned around, even though there's still struggles. There's some addiction, personality traits.
Yep.
Can you paint a picture of the good Mark that is your son? Because it's not binary. It's not all bad. He's made some mistakes, but clearly he's got so much goodness in him. Can you paint that?
So he has such a strong love for animals. So animals are his thing. I mean, he has his dog, our dog, right? We have 2 dogs in our house. That brings him an incredible amount of comfort. He's kind. He's caring. He really is very in tune to how other people feel. And right now, the biggest difference I'm seeing is he really thinks about something before he says it. Because that and appreciates more. So I don't know, both of my adult children thank us every night for supper. I think that's amazing. Like, thanks for supper, Mom and Dad. Like, usually they're saying Dad because he cooks it, but I clean up. So they're like, thanks for supper, Mom and Dad. He has a heart the size of Texas. He trusts people a little too easily sometimes, but he always believes that there's good in everybody. And I think that that's an admirable trait, instead of always coming in with your guard up. So he's a very smart, intelligent young man. He built his own computer from scratch. Like, he can tell you specs about anything. I have anything technical. I have my own tech support. So he's it's just sad that he can't work in his field because he was really good at it. But I said, you know what? There are other places that you can use that talent to work. I said, it doesn't have to be, maybe you could do some volunteering. Maybe if somebody is collecting computers and giving them to people who can't afford them, maybe you can volunteer to do some work on them. I said, there's always some ways that you can use your talent, but he is very talented. And he's he articulates very well. He has a love of the English language, as I do as well. So I bought a word of the day calendar. So every day I'm saying, oh, this is my word of the day. Do you know what it means? So that's kind of our little thing now, my word of the day calendar. But he's a good young man. And I want him to be able to stop and see his good qualities as well. And I'm always reminding him, like, oh, Mark, like, that was just what you just said to Dad. Like, that was so insightful. Like, I would never have thought of thinking about it that way. So, and the bond between him and his sister, a little strained, just because she saw the byproduct of what it did to us. But that's coming around. So him and Sam have always had a great relationship. And I have no doubt that they're going to get back there. Take a little bit more time, I think. But yeah, so my biggest message is that, where do I go for help? He's been on a waiting list for 3 years for a psychiatrist, which I think is absolutely ridiculous.
It is.
Especially since he has attempted suicide twice. I said, the next time I'm going to be planning his funeral, and it's going to be your fault. Right?
I love what you told me about. It's Operation Whiteheart. Is that the one where
Operation Whiteheart? Yeah.
I have to agree that it's not attainable to expect the system to handle this. I've seen people curled up in psychiatric care for weeks, and they're seeing a doctor once a week.
Exactly.
Capacity. So, I like what you said, that, that you stand behind this program, because really what we have to do is train us.
Exactly.
We need, and obviously you can't, the mother can't always be the one.
Nope.
With my brother,
the advocate, we can yell, and I will yell and scream at the top of my lungs, but that's not going to make sure that he gets the help that he needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we need people, in the community to step up, and maybe we all need to be seeking this training.
Yes.
I've had, I personally, just through a variety of means, I've had to call the police about people with mental health crises at home. And I'm just one person, and they're not my inner circle. It's
Right.
quite, so.
The name of the program, Robin, that he's getting people trained in is ASSIST, ASSIST.
And you said it was a mental health first aid, is that?
It's mental health first aid, yep. And he puts it on, and what he does is so that he goes and puts white hearts on people's lawns. They pay $50 for that. He takes $10 and he puts it towards getting people trained. So he will sponsor X number of people. And I was supposed to take the training, but something happened. I couldn't take it. Now I told him if he ever had a spot open for the weekend, but I would definitely be interested in getting trained. And I think to date he has over 150 people he has sponsored to have trained in this program. And the people who are training it, they are doing it for free. They are offering their time. They are offering their resources. And it's catching. It's now going to different countries. People are doing white hearts. They're putting white hearts on their window now that we're getting made of wood, or they're drawing white hearts in the snow. He's been interviewed a couple of times on our local news about it. He's been given an award. He just created this wonderful program where, you walk by, and I was like, what is with these white hearts on the lawn? And then I found out what the mission was. And then now all of a sudden you just walk by, and I get such a sense of pride when I drive by and I see a white heart on the lawn. It's like, people do care. Because you almost get to the point where you're like, people don't care. And I'm not saying my problems are any more extensive than anybody else's problems, but you kind of start to have a little bit of a pity party, right? Like, it's me. Why am I always the one that's fighting this battle? Why isn't somebody stepping up to help me and my family? And then I see this and I'm like, it's out there.
It's out there. I have to say, Lori, in your case, you've had success in reaching your son.
Yeah, I have had success in reaching him.
And if you'd be relying on the goodness of strangers, because there are dynamics in my family with addiction.
Right.
As soon as we open our mouth and start being loving, we're getting harassed for money from an addict.
Right.
So I have to think, well, all I can do is do good around me, because the emotional toll of that conversation,
exactly,
this almost harassment, is too much. I can see with the system, I think to myself, I just pray that Montreal has the things in place to help my brother.
Right.
But as soon as I start helping him, I'm being harassed. And it's periods where it's not that way, but it's tricky.
I have a really good friend of mine. I've known her for 40 years. She has a son struggling with addiction, and she literally had to cut him out of her life. She said it became, it was affecting my family. Again, he was coming into her house stealing things and then hawking it for drug money. And so sometimes, like I said, sometimes that separation needs to happen.
Yeah,
it does. Because even though I'm Mark's mother, I'm also Sam's mother, and I'm Mark's wife. Yeah. So I have to think about how is that affecting the rest of our family. Right. And so, but now we're getting back to family game nights where we're just breaking out the Monopoly game. I can't tell you the last time we did that. And just had fun together. And we had such a great time over the holidays. Marky was a little bit anxious about who was going to come over, because some people are judging him, some people are not. And I just said, you know what, Mark? We'll just see who walks through the door. And if that makes you uncomfortable, you can go up to my room. You can turn on my TV. I said, so that'll be our plan of action. But we talked about it before it happened, which was a huge breakthrough for him. Normally, he would have just kept that to himself and would have sat in a corner in the room and would have a drink in his hand. He didn't even drink any alcohol over the holidays, which I thought was a huge win. Yeah. Because normally if they stop taking drugs, they replace it with something else. So if he couldn't get his hands on drugs, he was doing it with alcohol. Right? So him not having a drink over the holidays, I was like, whoa. And people were offering, hey, do you want a beer? No, I'm good. I thought that was phenomenal. But yeah, sometimes you do have to. And I was prepared to do that, Robin. I really was. Yeah. I was prepared for it. And when he said, I don't think I deserve to come home, that's really where I set down my expectations right in that car ride. And I said, if you can't agree to that, I will drop you off at the Salvation Army. I will drop you off at the homeless shelter. You have to agree to our terms. And he's met them.
Beautiful.
You know, and I'm not saying sometimes he has off days, but I know I can read him now. So I'm like, how you feeling? Sometimes he struggles with the sleep patterns. And I said, well, you know what you need to do. Staying up all night is not in your best interest, because then what you're doing is you're looking for energy the next day. You know, have a good night's sleep, plan out your activities for when you know you're going to have that energy level to be able to, and he does. He has friends that he talks to online. I'm like, that's great, right? If you're still having that social interaction. But yeah, I'm really, really proud of how far he's come. And I really hope that he continues along the path. He has a lot to give. Said you have a lot of life left to live. I said, so, you know, look for the sunsets and look for the little things. I said, because that's when times were really tough. That's what got me through. Right? Like flying in an airplane, seeing the clouds still takes my breath away. Even though I've probably done it 1,500 times, I still just feel that sense of peace and calm. Right. So, and I'm trying to get him to, and so, you know, enjoy the little things. If that's what's going to bring you pleasure, enjoy the little things.
When you talked about games night, that's a huge accomplishment.
It is.
And there's a time in your life where we just take that games night for granted.
We do. And
if we lost something or somebody, we would see that memory or that day as such a beautiful thing. And that's the first thing I thought of, was that games night was such a triumph, and all you wanted was your little family together having a game.
Not watching at the TV, not looking at your cell phone, just enjoying the moment. And I said this to my best friend when I went to see Johnny Reed. When I go to a concert, I'm not holding up my phone. I'm not videotaping it. I'm enjoying the moment. I really think that is a huge thing that's wrong with society right now. There were so many phones. It's like, yeah, you can snap a picture or two, but they'll record the whole concert. Like, you're missing the experience.
The moment.
Missing the experience. And she agrees. She's like, oh, I totally get it. Like, you know, we were rocking and we were singing along, and it was a Christmas show. And it literally made my Christmas. I wasn't looking forward to Christmas, to be honest. I'm like, going in, let's just get the holiday over with. I'm telling you, that concert was transformational for me.
Beautiful.
Like, I left that, I felt like I was floating on a cloud. So I was in just such that, and you had all these other people in the room, and we all had one goal, which was just to have some fun. And he's a very amazing entertainer, shares pieces of his life, got very emotional. He started talking about a friend of his that passed away at Christmas time. You know, we started talking about his grandmother, and that makes him real, right? But we just had such, and he loves Christmas. You know, he's from Scotland, Roman Catholic. So he enjoys it, leans on his faith. Like, there was everything. I said, I can't wait to come to another Christmas show of his, because that's really transformational. Yeah, the other thing
is the first aid. That would be really I was signed up for that. I don't know if it was around COVID, around the pandemic, but I was going to do it for the school system. But I can tell you, I've had 4 or 5 opportunities, and I'm not one to avoid.
Yeah.
I've been on the phone with people who want to kill themselves, and different, you know, and I have a sense for what to do, but I would much prefer to be trained. So remember that, keep a little footnote. And
I will.
I
definitely will.
We happen to have thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
There's a lot of things mixed into this interview. So I definitely will split it up. No problem. Very few people would watch it all, but I think I really want to start with the one about the mental health piece, because
Absolutely.
I think that message to the world, and I love your New Year's intentions and kindness. And then, there's so much fun.
Glad to help, and thank you for creating this very supportive community. I've gotten a lot out of, you know, just interacting with them, you know, people I don't even know, but at the end of the day, we're just kind of all going through our stuff and supporting each other and just being there for one another. So thank you for creating that community.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure, Robin.
Say hi to Flo.
I will. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.